Hey there guys, Matt Guzman here, back with another video, and today's going to be my How to Get the Cooking Merit Badge Part 2. Now, in my other video, I went over requirements 1 through 3, which is mostly basic information you should know before cooking. This is the actual parts of cooking now, and specifically requirements 4 and 5. However, there is a notice, and there's a big paragraph on it, but to sum it down, basically, what you apply towards these requirements, 4, 5, and 6, you can't apply towards any other requirements, like book requirements, other requirements for the cooking merit badge. They only have to apply to 4, 5, and 6. That last sentence, you must not repeat any menus for meals actually prepared or cooked. That means you can't apply them towards any requirements besides 4, 5, and 6. You can still use the menus, you just can't actually say, oh, this can apply for the cooking merit badge and this tenderfoot requirement. You can't do that. So now that that's out of the way, just keep that in mind as you're working on this. Starting with requirement number 4, which is cooking at home. So cooking at home is fairly easy since you have most of the supplies with you already. With cost, I just had my parents buy it, so that's out of the way. 4A says to create a shopping list for your meals. This is obviously going to be different than a campout meal because you actually have like maybe a stove or an oven to use. It also says to show the amount of food needed to prepare and serve each meal and the cost for each meal. Basically, the quantity of what you're buying. 4B says to share and discuss your meal plan and shopping list with your counselor. 4C says using at least 5 out of the 10 cooking methods from requirement 3, prepare and serve yourself and one adult 1 breakfast, 1 lunch, 1 dinner, and 1 dessert from meals you planned. So out of that entire meal plan, you need to serve 4 meals with at least 2 people, yourself and 1 adult. If you're confused of what the 5 out of the 10 cooking methods are, look at my other video for the cooking merit badge. I'll send a link in the description for it, and that covers what those are. So here's just a mini compilation of when I was cooking with my brother to get one of the requirements done. As you can see, it's like almost 9 and we're trying to make it before 10. So we're washing our ingredients first and then getting some more so we have what we're actually going to be cooking. We're making sure it's out. Then we're making what we're going to do, which is pancakes. Time check to make sure we're managing our time. Overlaps of what we were cooking. And then putting our dishes away so we're keeping a clean kitchen setting. And then cooking the bacon in the microwave, which is a cooking technique. And then getting done before 10. 4D says time your cooking to have each meal ready to serve at the proper time. Basically, time management. You need to know how long things to actually take, which means that whatever you plan, you need to have a general idea of what it takes to cook that thing, or to cook that item. And then have an adult verify the preparation of the meal to your counselor. Alright, it's time to make the toast. So plug it in. What setting do you have it on for the amount of heat?
I have 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Alright. So the bacon isn't complete yet, so we'll put it in for about another 2 minutes. And it should be good by then. We got 2 more minutes to our deadline. When you're also cooking and preparing the meals, it's better to delegate things to other people. Like since I was working with my brother, I was able to have him and my siblings cook while I was at the table. And once you have the table set, it's really easy because then you can just call everyone. So preparing the meals is a lot more important than, eating the meals because you need to have the food prepared. And of course, make sure you have everything cleaned up. So now that we're done cooking with the stove, what do we do now?
We have to clean up our mess.
Alright, so before that, what do we need to do?
Turn off the stove.
Alright, so are the dials all turned?
Yes.
So once the pots and pans that you use are cooled down, you can place them in the sink. So cooks will get these in the sink now. Like I said before, my last video on cooking talked about preparation of meals. That was all that was about. So if you don't know what that is, please check out my other video first. Moving ahead into the actual cooking, 4E. 4E is actually fairly long, so bear with me here. After each meal, so remember you have 4 of them, after each meal, ask a person you served to evaluate the meal on presentation and taste, then evaluate your own meal. But Mac, I thought you said only 2 people, yourself and adult. Yes, but that's a minimum. You can definitely serve other people. As you saw in my other video, there was me and my brother, and you could hear his voice, and we were working on the merit badge at the same time, and we each served our entire family. I mean, if we're gonna cook at home, we might as well cook for the entire family. So, 4E continued, says, discuss what you learned with your counselor, including any adjustments that could have improved or enhanced your meals. And lastly, for 4E, it says to tell how better planning and preparation help ensure a successful meal. So, how does your time in planning the list, the meals, the preparation, how did that make it better? Or how does it make it better to make meals? So when the water starts to go away, you can't wait for 5 minutes anymore. You have to constantly flip them to make sure it browns on both sides. For this one, there's still water in here, so you can still wait for it for 5 minutes before flipping them. This is the rice I'm going to be frying later. I'm going to put it in the pan and have canola oil and fry it with soy sauce and stuff.
Are they ready?
Yes. Yes.
See, that's why you don't get closer, because they splatter. So now you flip them. What do you need to do?
Wait until it browns on both sides.
What do
and
you
put
need
this
to
in
do this?
here.
What you doing right now?
I am cleaning this so I can use it for fried rice.
It's supposed to be healthy, but whatever. Take the rice. So if you see the smoke lifting up, it's time to flip it. See it now?
This is the delicioso smoothie we made just a couple minutes ago, and everyone's gonna drink it.
That's it for requirement number 4. Once again, cooking at home. Now moving on to requirement number 5 is camp cooking. Now, a few things. This is the longest requirement out of the cooking merit badge. There are 8 different categories, A through H. So do not get the categories mixed up, especially when you're trying to apply the meals and menus to number 5. You want to make sure it's only going to requirement number 5. The rest of this video will be about requirement number 5. And keep in mind the beginning instruction, like I said, don't mix things up for requirements and meals and everything. And the last thing, it's a long requirement, so pay attention to what it's actually trying to get you to do. Moving right in, 5A, about camp cooking. It says, using the My Plate food guide or the current USDA nutrition model, plan 5 meals for your patrol and or group up to 8 youths, including you, for a camping trip. So, plan for about 8 people on a camping trip using the food guides. And if you don't know what those are, I discussed those in my last video as well. 5A, continued. Your menus should include enough food for each person. So, 8 people at least. That's a fairly, not too much food, but need to have a fairly good amount of food. Keep in mind any needs, such as food allergies, and how you keep your foods safe and free from cross-contamination. Now, this is a biggie, even if people aren't allergic, and I discussed this in my last video, even if people aren't allergic, it's just good safety as well for cross-contamination. You need to keep your food safe, so you need to discuss that with your counselor. So let's say you have a spatula and you're cooking breakfast for your friends or your family to flip or cook something like bacon or eggs, and you're using this to make the eggs, and then you realize that you're also making chili in the pot here, so you want to stir that chili, and you use that same spatula that you use the eggs for, and you don't think it's anything wrong because you're just trying to get the food done, and you stir with that, and then you put it back and you keep stirring, and then use that same spatula to continue using it on the eggs. And that's a form of cross-contamination because now bits of the egg are on the spatula. Then when you put it into the chili or something, now that egg stuff is in the chili. So someone who's allergic to eggs might get a reaction from the chili, even though there's not eggs in it, there's traces of it. 5A continued again says these 5 meals must include at least one breakfast, one lunch, one dinner, and a snack or dessert. So again, this is 4 different meals. Instead, it's a lot bigger because you're serving at least 8 people. And list the equipment and utensils needed to prepare and serve these meals. So maybe a lightweight stove. You need like a skillet or a grill of some kind. Maybe you'd need like just basic items like a knife and cutting board. Whatever that you would need, you need to list those down. And let me just tell you from past experience, if you're cooking, please make sure you have paper towels, dish soap of some kind, and propane if you're using a stove. I can't tell you how many times that I forgot propane. That was very bad. And that's it for requirement 5A, which is the planning of the meals. 5B is create a shopping list for your meals, like pricings. Show the amount of food needed to prepare and serve each meal and the cost for each meal. So to have the cost for each meal, you need to have the cost per item. To know the item, you need to know the magnitude of the item or the quantity of the item. 5C says to share and discuss your meal plan and shopping list with your counselor. 5D says in the outdoors, using your menu plans for this requirement, cook 2 of the 5 meals you planned using either a lightweight stove or a low impact fire. Now this makes it a lot easier because if you're on a campout, you're probably going to cook all 4 anyway, but only 2 of them need to apply to this actual one. So hint hint, probably choose the easiest ones, or just cook them all anyway. Lightweight stove or low impact fire, that just means you either bring a stove with the propane like I was saying before, or you just make a small fire. 5D continued says using a different cooking method from requirement 3 for each meal. You must also cook a 3rd meal using either a Dutch oven or a foil pack or kebabs. Serve all of these meals to your patrol or group of youths. Now, just based from experience, kebabs or Dutch oven might be easier depending on what you know how to do. And like I said before, this is a very long requirement, so if you're already lost, feel free to go back a few seconds to the requirements to get yourself caught up. So some things that we cooked, we had pancakes and we also had some oatmeal, and those are just some simple things, but you don't have to have just those. You can have like eggs and sausages, but the main thing is to plan ahead and actually be able to cook those. For lunch, we had burgers, and burgers took a while to make, but as long as we had everything set up and we had a good delegation line, everything worked out because we had someone preparing the food, someone shaping the patties, someone cooking, someone getting the plates and everything set up. So as long as you have everything prepared for and straightened out, then it should work out fine. So as you can see here, we have 2 cooks, and we're cooking multiple hamburgers or patties at the same time with 2 griddles. And how do we do that? Well, we set it up the night before and prepare for it in advance. And the patties were made by other kids who also helped us, and then I guess you could say the line. 5E says, in the outdoors, prepare a dessert or a snack and serve it to your patrol or a group of youth. 5F, after each meal, ask a person you served to evaluate the meal on presentation and taste, then evaluate your own meal. Now, I went to the 2019 Jubilee recently, and let me just tell you, by making your own food, it feels much better to eat it just by the fact that you made it yourself. And not to brag or anything, but during one of the meals, I ate 5 hamburgers. Now, I don't know if you know how much that is, but that's a lot. So, yeah, just when you're presenting your meals, know what you're eating and ask the people around you what they think of the meal as well, and then evaluate your own meal. 5F continued. Discuss what you have learned with your counselor, including any adjustments that could have improved or enhanced your meals. This is the same as the other requirement. This is usually after everything's all done and cleaned up, and you just discuss how maybe things could have been better. You could have maybe done this more efficiently, probably cleaned this dish earlier, just stuff like that. To be honest with myself, I don't actually think there could have been much that improved during our camp out here because as you can see, it's nighttime where we're getting set up early. But not only did we get our tent set up, we actually undid the trailer as well and also started setting up our kitchen. So while by the time it was morning, we already had everything set up. So that's just a tip for when you're cooking. Try to get everything set up the night before so when you wake up, you can just get straight into cooking so you don't have to unpack as much. And 5F again. Tell how planning and preparation help ensure successful outdoor cooking. And 5G, it says to explain to your counselor how you cleaned the equipment, utensils, and cooking site thoroughly after each meal. So usually after you're cleaning or when you're cleaning your dishes, do you know how many stations you need? It's usually 3. You have the soapy station with the warm water, then you have the rinse station to get everything off, and then you have the bleach station. It's can be usually bleach, but it's for sanitization and making sure there's no bacteria on it. So you need to make sure you know how you cleaned it and how it works, and just based on past experience, make sure it's actually cleaned. I can't tell you how many times I've lifted up a greasy pan because the past people didn't clean it. So, yep. And explain how you properly disposed of dishwater and all of the garbage. 5H, the last requirement for 4 and 5. Discuss how you followed the outdoor code and no trace principles when preparing your meals. And that's it for requirement 4 and 5. Thank you for watching my video on how to get the cooking merit badge part 2. If you did enjoy it, please like it, turn on notifications on my channel, and if it was confusing at first, don't fret about it because it is these are very long requirements actually, and they're very specific, and I hope the examples I put in the video really helped. Again, if you didn't know what most of these topics were, I did discuss most of them in my last cooking video, so those will be in the description. Thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!